This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
Well, it's been a tough couple of weeks for Democrats, for the mainstream media. Hell, it's been a tough 9 months for Democrats, but things are looking up. Saturday, just a few days from now, there will be protests in cities across the country. They're saying they might be the biggest protests we've ever seen. No Kings, they're calling it, the No Kings protest, and we will see signs, we'll hear chants, they'll sing songs. They will say we must stand against Donald Trump because Donald Trump's a dictator. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's a Nazi who just freed Jewish hostages in Gaza. He's a Nazi who just made peace in the Middle East, who brought everybody together, who ended a war, who did the unthinkable, who brought everyone together, dozens of countries, some of them hostile to one another, and they all shook hands and signed a deal and ended a war and freed Jewish hostages who were being held in bondage, who were being starved and beaten and tortured. He got those people out, those Jewish people out. So once again, Donald Trump proves to be the worst Nazi ever. They'll tell us that Donald Trump is cruel, that he separates families. Gee, did you see what happened yesterday in Israel? Families came together. Families who thought they would never see their loved ones again were reunited by the man who's supposed to be cruel and doesn't. The man who was going to start World War III, are we going to hear that from Democrats anymore? Are we going to hear that from the mainstream media, that he's a loose cannon, that he's a warmonger? He's the peace president. They still don't understand the man. It's fascinating to watch. They cannot get past their seething hatred for the man and give him credit for what he did over the last 2-3 days. Hell, over the last months. It was truly historic, truly remarkable. I have to say, watching this thing, I was riveted. I could not stop watching Trump on his whirlwind tour through the Middle East, 36 hours, and he changed the landscape in that war-torn region like no one ever has, like we never thought it was possible. Here's just a quick rundown of what Trump did over less than 2 days. I don't think he slept. There's no sleeping involved here. He flew to Israel. He spoke to the press. He met with Israeli leaders. He spoke to the press. He met with families of the hostages. He delivered an hour-long speech to the Knesset, which was incredible. He did an interview. He flew to Egypt. He met with the Egyptian president. He spoke to the press. He took photos and chatted individually with dozens of world leaders. He signed the historic Gaza peace deal. He delivered another speech. He met privately with world leaders, and he flew back to the U.S. while doing interviews on Air Force One. I don't see any sleep there. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't rest. He just keeps pushing forward, and they hate him for it. I don't think I've seen a moment like this probably since June 12th, 1987, when Ronald Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." That's what we saw. We saw this seminal moment, this historic moment where a president did what no one else thought possible. Can we just be honest? Joe Biden didn't even think to try to do this. Joe Biden was not capable of doing this. Barack Obama, not capable of doing this. I think it all goes back to his trip to the Middle East a couple months ago when he talked to all the leaders in the Middle East, most of them Muslim, most of them with a visceral hatred for everything Israel. And he didn't talk to them about human rights violations in their own countries. He didn't talk to them about climate change. He talked business. He talked commerce. He talked trade. And he opened their eyes and said, if you can get past this decades, centuries long animosity, this hatred you have for Israel, we can all do business. You can all thrive. And what we saw in Egypt was just remarkable when you consider he whipped the thing together in days. He summoned world leaders, dozens of world leaders, to this meeting, and they all showed up, including the ones who hate him and who had no role here, no part in this. Keir Starmer was standing behind him, this fool, this squish who recently said we need who recently recognized Palestine as a country and gave them an embassy in London. That guy, an anti-Semite, a guy who's opened his country, opened the borders to hundreds of thousands of Muslims to destroy his country. That guy was there supporting Trump, supporting the peace deal. This was the ultimate Trump moment. This was peak Trump, the deal maker. I think at some point we all have to agree, even everybody in the mainstream media, Democrats have to agree. This is what he does. He looks at a problem and says, how can we solve it? He's not concerned with these external forces of how's it going to play here, or what about the climate, or what about human rights, or what about what they did in the past to us. Hell, I wasn't thrilled that they announced a deal with Qatar to use a base in Idaho to train their pilots. That seems kind of insane, but it was part of the deal, a bigger picture, and he got it done. And it was just amazing to watch this thing unfold. It's something everybody wanted. Everyone wanted peace in the Middle East. Everyone wanted the hostages to come home. I shouldn't say everyone. I'm not sure the squad wanted the hostages freed. I'm not sure the squad wanted an end to this conflict. Hell, the ceasefire now crowd, it doesn't seem too happy that we have a ceasefire now. We have heard nothing from Ilhan Omar and Ayanna Pressley. We've heard nothing from Rashida Tlaib, a Palestinian who wept on the House floor over the genocide in Gaza. Well, the genocide is over, and people who were demanding an end to the genocide don't seem happy. This is, once again, such a revealing moment. They hate Trump more than they love their fellow man, more than they love their home country. In the case of Rashida Tlaib, they don't seem on board with this, which is just mind-blowing when you think about it. Trump signed the deal, and as I'm watching, I'm saying, there's no criticism. There can be no criticism for that. There can be nobody who steps back and says, well, I don't know if this was a good idea. He got every living hostage home in phase one. Now, will phase two go smoothly? Will phase two be a success, or phase three, or phase four? I'm not sure. We certainly can't trust Hamas, who are executing dissidents, people they suspect of collaboration with Israel. They're being executed in the streets. At least 30 Gazans have been executed by Hamas. Nothing from Rashida Tlaib, nothing from Ayanna Pressley about the human rights abuses by Hamas. Imagine being on their side, saying, that's my side, the side that's executing people in the streets, shooting them in the head. So we're not sure how phase two, phase three will go. But phase one was the most important element here, the most important demand. Free the hostages, all of them. And they did. They haven't freed all the dead bodies yet, all the deceased, all the people they killed, but they freed all the living hostages. And one after another, we watched them return to the loving embrace of their families. Just an incredible moment. And once again, it wouldn't have happened if Trump didn't win on November 5th. If you got your way, mainstream media, if you got your way, Democrats, these people would not be home with their families. It wouldn't have happened. I want to get to that, but let's get to Trump first, signing the deal and pointing out it is something we've talked about, we've heard about forever, my whole life. Peace. Could you find peace in Israel, peace in the Middle East, peace in Gaza? Could you bring all these countries together, most of whom who hate Israel, to sign this deal, agree to this deal, applaud this deal, and actually say the war is over? Here's Trump signing the deal, this historic deal. Here is the ultimate Trump moment, making a deal with all these countries, all these people, all these conflicting agendas, and they all came together around the president of the U.S., the president of the United States, the ultimate leader of the free world moment. This is it. This is the leader of the free world. Go ahead.
Okay. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, thank you. You can use my pen if you want. Have a pen? Can you use mine? Okay.
There it is. History. It's so much bigger than everything we talk about on a daily basis here in the United States. It's this moment that only Trump could reach. Only Trump could do this. The idea, you know why Joe Biden couldn't do this? You know why Barack Obama couldn't do this? Because they wouldn't even try. They wouldn't even think it's possible. Look at that gathering of all these countries. They wouldn't even think this is possible. They wouldn't even attempt to do this. They would say, "Oh no, we can't make a deal with them. They didn't sign on with the climate accord, the Paris Climate Accord, or they have human rights abuses, or they did this to us. They killed an American." Yes, that's tough to get past. Countries that have human rights abuses, or countries that have killed Americans. And Trump sat there and said, "We're going to make a deal with Iran. They're not there. They're not in that meeting, but we're going to get that done too." He is the ultimate deal maker, peacemaker, and it's killing Democrats to watch this because they know they couldn't do this. They know their guy could never even physically stand up, tolerate what Trump went through over the last 2 days. But it was truly historic, and it was a triumph. And good luck with your No Kings protest. Good luck. You're going to see people Saturday calling him a Nazi. Yes. I don't think that holds up anymore. You're going to see people calling him a fascist and a dictator and a warmonger. How's that holding up? Who wants to separate families? Let's get to the families that he brought together. I obviously, we've been watching this, talking about this for 2 years. And there's a couple of hostages, a couple of Israelis who were taken on October 7th that I could never get out of my mind. There was that initial day, October 7th, when we watched the video, saw the video, saw the jubilation on the part of the Hamas and other Palestinian civilians who took Israelis hostage that day at the Nova music festivals. Young people, people that weren't militants, young, most of them young liberals who were living in that part of Israel, who were celebrating, who were dancing, taken hostage. There was one couple that I just assumed was dead on that day. They would be tortured. They would be murdered. They weren't. They survived. Get that video of the woman, Noah. Her name is Noah, who was on the back of a motorcycle. There's her boyfriend right there. He's a big guy. There she is on the back of a motorcycle with two of these scumbags around her, reaching out to him, screaming in horror. He's being dragged away. Again, big dude. I'm saying he'll never survive. Here they were yesterday, the two of them back together again. I never thought that was possible. She got out earlier. He got out yesterday, and they reunited yesterday. That is just a remarkable moment. Never thought that would happen. I never thought there was a chance he would survive, but he did. Trump made this happen. Trump brought these people together. Yes, the man they accused for years of separating families brought these two together. It was one scene after another like this. There's nothing better than watching hostages return to their families, particularly when they're being held by subhuman savages, tortured, starved, murdered. They got 20 live hostages back there waiting for another 24 bodies, 28 dead hostages supposed to come back. They've returned 4. I'm not sure how much leverage that provides, but they lost most of their leverage yesterday. That's the thing. Hamas violates the next phase, violates agreement. They have no leverage. And Trump has said the answer, if they don't agree to this, if they don't follow through with this, is total obliteration. He gives Netanyahu the green light. There were others. Let's get to Avitan Orr. Avitan Orr was a hostage, and he became kind of famous because Hamas released photos, video of Avitan Orr digging his own grave, gaunt, skinny, starved. This was released by Hamas, by the way, of this poor guy digging his own grave in a tunnel, trapped in a tunnel for 2 years. He'd lost 40% of his body weight. This was something right out of Auschwitz. This is what they were doing to innocent Israelis who were taken hostage. Well, I just assumed that guy wasn't going to make it. Avinatan Orr, he worked for NVIDIA, by the way. He came home yesterday. Somehow, some way, this poor bastard survived this and came home yesterday. And there was a great post by the CEO of NVIDIA asking him why he hadn't showed up at work for 738 days, and then telling him, wait till you find out how much your stock options have grown. Here he is with his best friend. They were both taken hostage. They were separated. They didn't think the other guy had survived, and they reunited in the hospital. Do we have the volume for this? Let's listen. I just... He doesn't look too bad. I guess they fed him for the last couple of weeks knowing he was going to be released. They didn't want him to look quite as gaunt as he did when he was digging his own grave. But let's get to Christiane Amanpour. Look at that. Look at that picture. Now, hold on. Before we get to Christiane Amanpour, I want to get to some of the Democrats and the media people who this was a really tough day for them. They want to keep up the Trump hate. They want to criticize Trump for everything. It's what they do. They wake up in the morning. Here's how you know this separates the people who have enough, class, enough dignity to credit Trump. I mean, literally every world leader, there were 25, 30 of them there, Muslim leaders who watched Trump get Israeli hostages freed and then stood before the cameras and said, you did it, Mr. Trump. It wouldn't happen without you. President Trump. The Pakistani prime minister nominated him for the Nobel Prize yesterday. These are Muslim leaders elated that Trump ended the war and freed the hostages. Only in this country do you have people who are reluctant, who refuse to give Trump credit. Here is the ultimate petty, jealous, bitter little man, Barack Obama, who becomes less relevant, less respected every day because he is such a small man. After 2 years of unimaginable loss and suffering, he writes, for Israeli families and the people of Gaza, we should all be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight, that those hostages still being held will be reunited with their families, and that vital aid can start reaching those inside Gaza whose lives have been shattered. More than that, it now falls on Israelis and Palestinians, with the support of the U.S. and the entire world community, to begin the hard task of rebuilding a Gaza and to commit to a process that, by recognizing the common humanity and basic rights of both peoples, can achieve a lasting peace. 73 million views for that. Who made that happen, Barack? Who did it? Who's the man who brought everyone together? Who pushed this over the finish line? Who brought peace to the Middle East and freed the hostages? Say it, you little petty. He's just so despicable. Joe Biden. Joe Biden mentions Trump at least, but of course, Joe Biden wants you to believe he started this. He says, I'm deeply grateful and relieved that this day has come for the last living 20 hostages who've been through unimaginable hell and are finally reunited with their families and loved ones, and the civilians in Gaza who've experienced immeasurable loss and will finally get the chance to rebuild their lives. The road to this deal was not easy. My administration worked relentlessly to bring hostages home and get relief to Palestinian civilians and end the war. I commend President Trump and his team for their work to get a renewed ceasefire deal over the finish line. You did nothing. Joe Biden did nothing. Anthony Blinken did nothing. We should never forget that. They never mentioned the hostages. They rarely mentioned peace or a ceasefire or an end or a deal or a settlement. You know why? Because they didn't think it was possible. It's the Middle East. It's Israel. It's Hamas. It's Iran. You can't get a deal done with these people. It's been thousands of years. And they said, why even try? The idea that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, that absolute embarrassment, could have done this if they prevailed on November 5th, if Kamala Harris prevailed, the hostages would still be in the tunnels. There would be no peace. There would still be war. There would still be destruction and death. This only happened because of Trump's singular determination, relentless effort to make a deal. Here's the fake Indian, Liz Warren. For 2 excruciating years, I've called for the return of the hostages brutally kidnapped on October 7th. That is a lie. You are a liar. All she does is lie. She has not been calling for the return of the hostages. She has not. No, very few Democrats have. John Fetterman might be the only one who has consistently said, release the hostages. People like Liz Warren, they pandered to the far left, to the squad, to the ceasefire now crowd, and accused Israel of genocide and blamed Israel for everything. She says, today is a good day. Surviving Israeli hostages are finally home and reuniting with their loved ones. I'm thinking of them and their families on this joyful day and praying for their full recovery. I'm grieving for those who didn't come home. Today must also be an important step toward lasting peace for both Israelis and Palestinians. We must end the war in Gaza, surge humanitarian aid, and negotiate a 2-state solution. God, you are pathetic. You are a liar. You didn't give a damn about the hostages. You barely mentioned them. I guess I'll give her credit for at least releasing a statement. There are so many of these people. Yeah, we got to get to this. After that pathetic tweet, J.D. Vance, our 48th president, trolls the hell out of the fake Indian. He writes, The president told me he did this on Indigenous Peoples Day in honor of you. JD is great. He's just such a, he's fun. He's funny. He's going to be great. Can't wait for 2 terms of JD Vance. Here's the roll call, by the way. I kept track. It was part of just watching this whole day unfold. Those who didn't say his name: Liz Warren, Barack Obama, Jasmine Crockett, didn't say his name, Adam Schiff. Here's the whole screenshot of all these hacks, these political hacks who can't even look at this historic deal, this amazing moment, and say, yes, our president did it. Show some pride in your country. But no, one after another. Eric Swalwell, Kathy Hochul, Abigail Spanberger. They can't even say his name. They just can't get past their seething, visceral, deep-seated hatred for the man. They can't look at this and say, good job, Trump. That's my president. That's my country. They made this happen. Those who named Trump, both Clintons, Hillary and Bill, Chuck Schumer, Jessica Tarloff, Mark Kelly. Of course, you had the Biden crowd saying, they mentioned Trump, but they said, we did it. We started it. Tony Blinken, that absolute pathetic wimp, saying, yeah, he built on our plan. It was not you. You had nothing to do with this. You were a detriment. We had to get you out of the way for Trump to make this happen. And fortunately, he did. There was another hostage video, which was just incredible. A hostage by the name of Omer Shen Toph, who was released after 2 years in the tunnels, where some of these hostages could rarely stand up straight. They were starved, they were tortured, they were beaten, and now they're free and they're alive. And Democrats couldn't even give Trump credit for that. But he explains how Hamas was rooting for Kamala. Of course they would. This is stating the obvious. Hamas wanted their girl, Kamala, to win in November, and they were disappointed. And when she lost and Trump won, things changed for the hostages. Check this out.
Yes, it's him. He got me out. He got the hostages out. Before, we felt like nothing is happening, you know? And I remember ever since he came into the role, they were very scared of him. Yeah, they wanted
Who?
The terrorists.
We're afraid of Trump.
Yeah, they wanted Kamala to be chosen, to be elected.
You talked politics with them?
Yeah. They wanted Kamala to be elected. But as soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wants to bring the hostages back home. Yeah. So immediately the way they treated me changed. So if it's the amount of food, I could say this, that when Trump became president, yeah, the way they treated us changed for me personally. This is what I
think
felt.
because they anticipated that a deal would come soon.
Yeah.
And that's when they started giving you more food.
Exactly. More food, treated me better, stopped cursing me, stopped spitting on me.
They were spitting and cursing?
Yeah.
Were they beating you?
No, never. I was never, except the 7th of October, I was never abused physically. But I think it's because.
And you know what? One post about this, I read the comments, and one after another, Democrats, he's a liar. He's a liar. They didn't care about the election. Of course they did. Of course they knew one man could end this. One man could free them. One man who would have real moral clarity. Again, if Kamala's president or Biden's president, there would be no moral clarity. There would be no consensus. There would be no bringing together dozens of world leaders, prime ministers and kings and presidents together with one singular mission: end the war, change the Middle East. Only Trump, and they hate him for it. This was perhaps the lowest moment in all the reaction from the mainstream media. This woman, Christiane Amanpour from CNN, sneaky, one of the biggest pieces of shit in the mainstream media, really is. Just a Trump-hating, America-hating of a woman of Iranian descent. She actually said this on CNN. And by the way, she still has a job. She said the hostages were treated better than the average person in Gaza. I had to watch this twice. This is a woman who's completely broken, who's just completely obsessed with hating Trump, hating America, hating anything good that America does, and looking and lying in service to the terrorists. Here she is telling you that the hostages were better off than the average Gazan.
I think for sure, people who start to talk to the hostages who've only just been released will find that it will take a long, long time for them to recover physically, but also mentally. It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way, by giving them all up. So that is a victory for the Israelis.
Probably treated better than the average Gazan. Now, she's a reporter. She's been there. She talks to people. She's just flat out lying because she knows that this makes Trump look good, makes America look good. She hates that. We know they made poor Avidantan or dig his own grave. We saw the photos. Hamas released the photos. We know these people were kept in the dark for 2 years and even more. We know they killed most of the hostages. Even yesterday, there was 20 living hostages, 28 dead hostages. We know they murdered women and raped their corpses. We know they murdered babies. We know they killed hostages in captivity. And this woman says they were treated better than the average Gazan. That is just an amazing moment. And of course, there was no price to pay. They didn't fire her. They didn't suspend her. They made her apologize. Again, they're literally releasing dead hostages, killed in captivity. And the woman says they were treated well. That is remarkable. We have her apology. Watch her. She's got a script that her boss gave her. You got to go on the air and read this to save your job. And of course, she does. She's okay. Yeah. How sick in the head do you have to be to say these hostages who we see emaciated, sick, gaunt, limping, struggling, we know they've been starved. We know they've been kept in tunnels under Gaza. And you say they treated them okay. Those Hamas guys, they're not such bad guys after all. Watch this absolute, this disgrace to her profession. Read the apology someone wrote for her.
Now, earlier live on air, I spoke about what a day of real joy this is for Israeli families whose loved ones are finally being returned from 2 years of horrific Hamas captivity, and for civilians in Gaza who finally had a reprieve from 2 years of brutal and deadly war. I noted that for the hostages who are finally home, it'll take a long time for them to recover mentally and physically. But I regret also saying that they might have been treated better than many Gazans because Hamas used these hostages as pawns and bargaining chips. But that was insensitive and it was wrong. From speaking to many former hostages and their families, like everyone, I've been horrified at what Hamas has subjected them to over 2 long years. They've told me, as you've just heard, their stories of barely being able to breathe in the tunnels, not being allowed to cry, being starved and made to dig their own graves. And of course, today, some of the hostages are coming back in body bags.
So you knew that. You knew they were being starved, tortured, kept in tunnels. You knew that some of them were murdered. And you went on the air and said they weren't being mistreated by my friends in Hamas. And she's going to be on the air again today. How do you not fire this woman? Clearly, she's not a journalist, and that's her whole thing. You know, she's an activist. She's sympathetic to Hamas, to Islamists who who tortured and murdered Israelis. And we're watching as they release them. We're seeing how gaunt and malnourished they are. And you say, yeah, that wasn't so bad. What a disgrace. She really is. Well, it was, it's going to continue, by the way. They're right now, as we lead up to the No Kings protest, trying to find, they're hoping the deal falls apart. They're hoping we don't get to phase 2. They're hoping there's more war and death and destruction, because nothing matters to people like her more than stopping Trump, than hurting Trump, than making Trump look bad, making Trump look like a failure. That whole 36-hour trip just killed them. It just crushed them. They can't stand the thought of America leading and Trump leading in this effort to bring peace to the Middle East. Just kills them. Well, leave it to Bill Maher, of course, who invariably brings some common sense to this. I can't believe that he becomes the voice of reason. A guy who, by the way, until recently hated Trump as much as anyone, hated Trump as much as Christiane Amanpour, was a dyed-in-the-wool liberal who couldn't stand the man. He had dinner with him. They worked things out. He still doesn't support him. He says he didn't vote for him. He would never vote for him. But he looks at this and says, you're not going to give him credit for this, for bringing peace in the Middle East, for bringing all these countries together, for convincing them that they can live peacefully and prosperously. They can all get rich. Their countries can thrive if you just stop killing each other. Here's Bill Maher with William Macy talking about these fools that just can't look at this and say, good Trump, good job.
I always say this, you cannot ever deny success. You just have to give your respect, even if it's not your thing. Have the humility to give it up for enormous success on any level.
I agree.
Trump, not my choice, didn't vote for him, but
a lot of people did.
And he's, I can't deny the success.
I can't either.
Yeah.
And he's the president.
And he's the president.
Can't deny success. Oh, yes, you can. You can sit there like, Christiane Amanpour or Barack Obama or Liz Warren. You know what's really going to kill him? Trump's going to turn to Ukraine now. He's got a real coalition. He's got everybody on his side. I mean, it's one thing when you have like cabinet members in a cabinet meeting go around the table and all talk about how great Trump is. These were kings and sultans and crown princes in the Middle East fawning over the president of the United States, literally to a man, saying, you did this, you made this happen. And to me, the real amazing thing is it shouldn't be that hard. All you have to do is eliminate all the external forces and all the distractions and say, how do we get this done? That's what he did in real estate. That's what he does now. How can we get this done? Oh, we make a deal with Qatar. Some people won't like it, but we want to get this done. Oh, you tell Netanyahu that he can't come to the meeting in Egypt? Fine, you can't come. You make Netanyahu call Qatar and apologize? Okay, do it. Not worried about, how it's going to look or whose feelings are going to get hurt. He just focuses in like a laser. He doesn't, have this great grasp of the history. He probably doesn't even know who all the players are. But he says, what does it take to get the deal done? And then he does it. And now he's going to do that with Ukraine and Russia. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But what the hell are Liz Warren and Barack Obama and Christiane Amanpour and Jake Tapper and Steffi Stefano, what are they going to say if that's the next deal? He's ended 8 wars, literally ended 8 conflicts around the globe in 9 months. And now there's one big one left. And it will be interesting to see if he can do it again. Then what are they going to say? Then how are they going to spin it? It's just, it's fascinating to watch. It really is. But all right, well, as we know, every day we dodged a bullet. We dodged a nuclear missile. It is incredible to think what would this country, this world look like if Trump didn't win on November 5th, you would have obviously war raging in the Middle East. The hostages would probably be dying. You'd have an open border. You'd have crime in D.C. Who knows what the stock market would be doing. It is hard to believe that 75 million people look at Kamala and say, yeah, she would have been better than Trump. I'm not sure how anyone could say that. Give me Kamala on Columbus Day before we get to Alyssa. Yesterday was Columbus Day. Yesterday, Trump made it clear the other day with an executive order, we are going to celebrate Columbus. We're going to bring back the statues. We're going to celebrate the bold, the brave, the heroic explorer who made the trip across the ocean and discovered this land. Democrats hate it. Yesterday was Indigenous Peoples Day, and this was the person who almost became president talking about Columbus Day. This is a real dividing line. If you want this to be Indigenous Peoples Day, you're hopeless. You really are. You're pathetic. Just say it. Happy Columbus Day. Was he a flawed man? Of course he was. But we celebrate him for a reason. Western civilization is here because of him and people like him, but they can't stand it. Here's Kamala Harris on Indigenous Peoples Day.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past.
Oh,
and we must shed light on it.
Shut up.
And
God. I'm not the first to say this, but we are the only country, we're leaders, we're a person who's almost president, who was vice president, who was a senator, who hates the country, who denigrates the country they're supposed to represent. This doesn't happen in other countries. We have a whole political party who's devoted, committed to slandering their own country, to focusing on the flaws of their own country instead of celebrating the country. These are people who are embarrassed to fly the flag, who are embarrassed to say, yes, my country, my president led the effort to bring peace to the Middle East. And would she do that if she were president? Say, oh, we brought disease and death to the poor, innocent, indigenous people in this country. I mean, it's an amazing phenomenon when you think about it. Only Democrats in the whole world, you don't see this. Only Democrats spend their time and energy denigrating, criticizing their own country, that have just no pride in their country, even in a moment like this. It is revealing, and thank God that woman is gone and never, ever to return. Her book tour is going about as well as you could expect, just constant, just one cringy video after another. Speaking of cringy videos, let's get to The View. The View has, obviously they're all just a bunch of brainless liberals, but Alyssa Farah, she's supposed to be the conservative. She used to be. She's not. She hates Trump. She's just like Joy and Whoopi and the rest of them. But here she is earlier in the year when the thought of Trump bringing peace, of Trump freeing the hostages came up. Here's what she vowed to do.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing.
Your job, Ironhead. You got to watch The View today. See if Alyssa Farah puts on a MAGA hat. I predict she'll put it on for like 10 seconds and then like throw it to the crowd or throw it on the ground. and everyone will clap. But she has to.
No, they're definitely just going to straight up ignore it.
You can't ignore that. That thing has gone viral. She vowed. How hard is that, too, by the way? Just put a MAGA hat on for 10 seconds and then throw it away. But he has twisted these people into knots. They all said, we want the hostages to come home. Well, they're coming home because of one man. By the way, and his team of Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, these are real estate guys, developers. You had diplomats working on this, peace in the Middle East, peace between Israel and the Palestinians and Hamas and Israel for decades, and they got nowhere near this. You bring a couple of New York real estate developers in, deal makers, and you get it done. What does that tell you? Our diplomats are worthless. Our secretaries of state in the past, Anthony Blinken, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, worthless. Every one of them. Hell, what did Kerry and Obama and Clinton do? They gave money to Iran. Trump gave them B-2s and bombed their nuke site. And a couple months later, we get a deal. That tells you all you need to know. All right. How much time do we get? Oh, good. I want to do Don Lemon, because Don Lemon, I have to admit, is entertaining me. I don't watch his show or listen to his podcast, but I do see the clips. And there's a lot of these hacks that lost their jobs in mainstream media, Jim Acosta and Joy Reid and Terry Moran and Chuck Todd. And for the most part, they're just all singing from the same song sheet. They're all just easy to ignore. But Don Lemon's he's trying something different. He's going out in the street. And every time he does it, he shows just how stupid he is. It's unbelievable that he was an anchor on a news channel for 10 years, bringing you news every night and analysis. And now he hits the streets and he's a big, hates Trump, big, crazy liberal. And he has these debates. He had a guy on yesterday, interviewed a guy, and the guy said he was going to go as Charlie Kirk on Halloween with a big hole in his neck. And he said he hated Charlie Kirk. And Don Lemon laughed and thanked the guy because he's just too dumb to push back. But anyway, here he is explaining to a woman that misdemeanors aren't crimes. Yes, this is, again, Don Lemon, star anchor at CNN, doesn't even know what a crime is. Check it out.
Okay, crossing the border illegally is not a crime?
No, it's not a criminal act. Okay. It's a misdemeanor.
So why are they being sent back and saying that they're breaking the law?
That's the point.
Okay, as somebody that
we don't know if they're breaking the law because they won't tell. There's no due process. Where's the evidence? That's the whole point. And if they are breaking the law, most people will say, okay, then they need to go if they're criminals. But if they're not, why are they being rounded up and sent out? Especially when he promised to deport the criminals, and now he's not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going.
Misdemeanor is not a crime.
Yeah.
So misdemeanor is not
it's not a criminal act. No, if you get charged with a misdemeanor, that's not a criminal act.
Why get charged at all then, if it's not a criminal act?
Because we have different levels of crime. Everything is not the same.
So it is crime.
No,
it's just
we
different
have different levels of. I shouldn't say crime, but it's not. It's not a crime. You're not breaking the law. I mean, you are breaking the law, but it's not a criminal act.
So it's breaking the law.
No, you're not breaking the law.
Misdemeanor is not breaking the law.
No.
If you're speeding, drinking, get pulled over, DUI.
That's not a criminal act. Well, no, if you're speeding is a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor. Right. So it's still breaking the law.
Okay, well, if you want to qualify that, we're doing semantics. But what I'm saying, but what I'm trying to tell you is everything is not the same. It's all not one thing.
But is it the law?
What is it? The law that what?
Is it a law to come over legally? Is there a law?
There are rules that processes that you should follow. Yeah, so you're breaking rules. You're breaking the rules, but you're not necessarily breaking a law.
Oh God, he's so bad.
And
you're breaking the rules. What rules? Misdemeanor is not a crime. Drunk driving is usually a misdemeanor. Is that a crime, Don? You idiot. And he's debating these people, and they're so much smarter than he is. They're like, wait, you just said it's a misdemeanor. That's a crime. Well, it's not a crime. It's a rule. What the hell's a rule? He's just such a dummy. I think it's worth
credit to him for still posting this.
I guess so. I give him credit for going out in the streets and showing everyone just how stupid he is and getting schooled by just average people on the street. And you're right, he's getting some views. He's posting this. He's showing the world how stupid he is. I guess I should give him credit for that, but whatever. He's certainly more entertaining than Chuck Todd or Joy Reid. But all right, that will do it for today. Today is October 14th. You know what that is? That is Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday. And today, Trump is doing it again, man. He's doing the right thing. He's going to award Charlie Kirk posthumously the Medal of Freedom, the highest award for a citizen. And he deserves it. That'll be an amazing ceremony. Hopefully, Erica Kirk and all of Charlie's friends from Turning Point will be there at the White House. He gets this award. It's also George Floyd's birthday. And if Kamala were president, she'd be honoring George Floyd today and not Charlie Kirk. But anyway, thank God, again, we dodged that nuclear missile, and Trump will again be doing the right thing and driving liberals insane. But Charlie Kirk, I mean, we knew he had a big impact. But we had no idea. His impact in death is just something to behold. Turning Point has exploded. People are going to church. People are watching his videos. People on the left are lying about him. Anyone who tells you he's a misogynist or a racist is lying. They did not watch. They do not know anything about him. He was just the opposite. He was an amazing man, and he's left quite the legacy, and good for him and his family and friends are getting the Medal of Freedom today. Well deserved. That will do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
I didn't say it's on one side, but I say the radical left causes tremendous violence, and they seem to do it in a bigger way. But the radical left really is caused a lot of problems for this country. I really think they hate our country.